One. All right, welcome back to another Puck Pod by BD Sports. As you can tell, we dropped our third member. I'm joking. He's Brian's not able to make it today. I'll be your host. I'm David, and with me we got Cristian here. We like to keep our uploads consistent. Unfortunately, Brian couldn't make it today, as I mentioned, but the show must go on. So the first thing I'm going to do is just make sure you head to our website to check out our links. We are affiliated with Fubo, Razor, and the NHL Shop.com. All the links will be posted in the description of the video below. Make sure to go check it out. Buy some stuff. Any little bit helps. And I guess on that note, Cristian, before we get into the Leafs talk, how's your day been, man? A week,
My
day?
day. We'll do both. We'll do both. The day's been pretty good. Pretty chill. Sunday is the chill day because then you're getting right back into school tomorrow. And the week, I don't know. I find this to be the time of year when just time starts to fly by for me, and like my days or my weeks start to feel like 2 days. So honestly, if you ask me what I did this week, I know I did a crap ton of stuff, but I wouldn't be able to tell you half of it. So that's kind of where I'm at. How about you? And how's your dad progressing?
Yeah, no, he's been doing good. So to answer the first thing there, dude, I feel you like completely. Like, dude,
Yeah,
we're already on episode 5. Like, it's been five
that's
weeks
true.
already. Feels like it was yesterday that we were starting to talk about, the beginning of the season. Yeah, he's been doing good. We just had like some family over. They just came by to see him. It's actually my one of my cousin's birthdays tomorrow, so they came over for like coffee and cake. So happy birthday to Emma if she's ever gonna watch this. Definitely not, because this isn't really for her. But yeah, no, you know what? He's been doing a lot more. And considering his accident coincided with basically our first like we uploaded on the Monday, he had his accident on the Wednesday. So I mean now it's been about a month. It's going to be a long way back, and well, I'll keep everybody posted on how he's doing. On that note, I think we'll just jump right into this. I would say a mess of a week for the Leafs. So as everybody knows, me and Cristian are the resident Leaf fans on this page. Brian, our Caps fan, unfortunately isn't able to join us. I didn't watch any Caps games this week, so don't expect Caps coverage from me. I could maybe say the same for Cristian as well. We were just
You
watching
definitely
the
can.
Leafs. Yeah, so tonight, we're recording on Sunday. They're playing the Ducks. They are coming off of back-to-back losses, so two straight losses to the the Sharks and the Kings. The Sharks are notably one of the bottom feeders of the league. They're playing the Ducks tonight, who's another bottom feeder team. The Kings, you know what? They made the playoffs last year. They played the Leafs pretty hard, man. So Cristian, what have your thoughts been on this past week?
Yeah, I mean, even going further back, we had the Vegas loss as well, right? That
Oh, I
was
forgot about
that,
that.
and
That was
it
the
the
beginning of this week.
once
Oh my
again,
God.
it goes to the idea of days and weeks blending together, and maybe the Leafs are partially to blame for why we feel like this. But yeah, so let's look at the whole road trip outside of the Winnipeg game. Starting in Vegas, it was a pretty listless effort. And I'd say the most noticeable thing from that game, obviously, it was a 3-1 loss for the Leafs to the Vegas Golden Knights. Most noticeable thing, every start to a period was terrible for the Leafs. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Getting shelled in their own zone, turnover central, defensive turnovers, not a good look. So that was the first game on the California side, or let's go with the western side of the road trip if we don't count Winnipeg. Moving from Vegas, as you mentioned, San Jose bottom feeder team, a lot more of the same stuff. Yes, it was a closer game. Went to overtime in which we lost 4-3. Erik Karlsson with the winner there, but again, same stuff. Wasn't an inspiring effort. Very bland. Not good. Moving to LA last night, we lose this game as well, 4-2. More of the same. Slightly better effort, maybe, but egregious turnovers is the theme in that game.
I would
And
say
Duvall,
marginally better
Sandin,
effort.
Exactly. And that's not where we want to set the bar with this team. And obviously, with this road trip, you have the just the grand conversation opening up. It's a conversation that spanned like I don't know, maybe 5 years, right? So it just has to do with the Leafs. What is going on? Everyone likes to here in LeafLand, we act as if the sky is falling, but honestly, it's not good. It's not good. It's listless efforts in every loss. It's just lack of attention to detail, lack of being able to start on time in games, and it's nothing new from the team, right? So that's kind of where
And
we're at with the
and
conversation.
it's been nothing new now for it seems like the entire I think you brought that up.
Yeah,
It's been kind of like the same all every year now. They go through this stretch at the beginning of the season, whether before it was with Freddie Anderson, he couldn't save a beach ball in October. And their efforts during those like it always seems like October it's like they start their season
it
in
is a slow
November.
start. Yeah,
It's always been a
yeah,
slow start, which is very, very weird for a team that should be having cup aspirations on their mind. Like I don't get it. The couple of like the main theme from this road trip. So we'll say the California side, the game in Winnipeg. I don't even know if I want to call it an aberration. That should be the team that should be coming out every night. That's
yeah,
what we want to see. And I get it. Listen, you're not going to win 82 games. Nobody's done it before, right? But if you compete as hard as you did against the Jets, who noticeably get under the Leafs skin, I don't know if that's something that like it takes just agitating the Leafs to get them to go out and play, or because man, we could start back with Vegas. So I'll let everybody in on a little secret. I couldn't watch every single minute of like the game. I would love to, but I work along at a grocery store at Longo's here in Vaughan, and I've been doing a lot more morning shifts. So this California road trip, 10 o'clock start times, 10:30 start times. I was even worse, and we're ending games at like 12:30, 1 o'clock.
yeah.
I gotta get up in the morning, guys. So I wasn't there for everything. But even if you didn't watch 60 minutes, I think the 8 minute highlights on, whatever you want to watch it through TSN, you want to watch it through Sportsnet, wherever you get your highlight packages from, they definitely do it some justice. So that Vegas game, they have the offside call. We'll begin there. I guess that's where, everything that was maybe a handful of minutes into the game. They the Leafs are on the PK, and they get lucky with not lucky. The rules are rules. He was
Yeah.
who was it offside? I forget. Like was that
I
Chandler
think it might have
Stevenson?
been it was either Stevenson or Carlson. I can't remember honestly.
No, it
Yeah,
might have been Carlson. Doesn't matter. At the end of the day, Vegas enters the zone. They have a bit of possession before they put it on net, and of course, Phil Kessel scores what should have been his 400th career goal in his record tying Ironman record tying 989th game, which he then broke the night before, scored his goal. So they called this goal back. Leafs get a break. Vegas is still on the power play. 40 seconds later, 1-0 Vegas. Like, brain lapses, mental lapses. I don't know what you want to call it, but like it just seems like to be like a calamity of errors every time like the Leafs try to defend. Like I don't get it.
yeah.
We could call out some players here, but
I
listen,
mean, yeah, there. I think people know who the scapegoats are right now in the fan base. I mean, to the surprise of nobody,
and
Justin
listen,
Hall, right?
Justin Hall's
I
up there,
know.
but he's not doing anything to help his cause. Like, listen, I
Trust me,
don't want anybody to not succeed on the team. Everybody wants
Dave, I have
the
the
team to
same
succeed.
mentality, man. If you play for the Toronto Maple Leafs, I'm cheering for your success. I don't care if your name was Roman Polak, Martin Marincin, Matt Hundwick, Par Lindholm. You play for the team, I want you to do well. And the same goes for Justin Hall, as you're saying there, right? So,
By
but it's
all
tough to defend
accounts,
him.
yeah, by all accounts, like everybody in the locker room seems to love the guy. And he, you know
Yeah.
what? I get this the sense that he actually is a genuinely great person. And this is not going at his character. But man, against the Coyotes, which it's looking like we're going to be coming back to that game quite a few times this year. Unfortunately, as much as we wanted to get rid of that game from our memories, the way that this season started, that we might be going back to it a few times. The game against the Coyotes, he gave the go-ahead goal. He literally, I think I mentioned on this podcast, threw a pepperoni pizza slice up the ice right to, I believe that would have been Clayton Keller's stick, who passed it over to Goss's Bear for the go-ahead goal. Was there anything, I don't remember if it was against Vegas, just like all three games, just like there always was something. If something was going wrong for the team, I'll put it this way: if something was going
It's a good
wrong
way
for
to
the
put it.
team, it seemed like Justin was always around, whether or not it was on his shoulders squarely, which is unfair to say to him. Um, you know, he always seemed to be involved. Yeah, man, like he's looked rough to
We
start the season.
I'd say so. This is where I'm at with Justin Hall. Okay, so just to give a little bit of history on Mr. Justin Hall here, he's originally in the Chicago Blackhawks organization, playing with their affiliate, and then Dubas made a trade for him. I believe it was just like a straight AHL trade, like no NHL aspirations were really not that they weren't had, but that wasn't the trade wasn't made with bringing Justin Hall to the NHL right away. That was not the assumption. So he goes to the Marlies, plays a couple years down there, I think, and he slowly makes his way up. He slowly becomes a steady defenseman for the Marlies. And in his during his introduction to the Leafs was a great one. I don't know if it was that he scored his first goal in his debut or not, but he had the was it the 2 goal game
Was
against the
he
Islanders
one of
there?
those? Because it was
I can't
Dermot.
remember. Yeah, Dermot and Hall
Might
are
have
like
been
best
him.
buddies.
It might have been
Yeah,
Durbin and Hall, actually. I
yeah,
remember
yeah,
that.
and the dermatologist pair, as I've heard it called. I love
Dermatologist.
that. Gotta give a good shout out to good puns, right? So,
Great
anyways,
nickname.
yes. So Hall comes up, plays well in his limited ice time, and eventually he finds himself on a second pair with Muzzin, right? This would have been what, the bubble year, and he was great in the bubble year. Maybe he was it might have even been before that. Might have been Keith's first season, right? The half season there
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
Muzzin and Hall linked up together. But they were linked up and they were great. They were the de facto shutdown pair. There was conversation of, is it Muzzin who is the real producer of the line, who's really like Hall is the anchor, but nevertheless the results were good, right? So it wasn't always like this with Hall. It wasn't always like this, and I'd say that the eye test matched the numbers where he looked like a good shutdown defenseman, right? So that's bubble season, and something changed. Must have been that playoff series there against Columbus, or something changed mentally for him. I just his confidence hasn't been the same. I really do think it's a mental thing with Hall because we've seen what Hall is when he's put in a position to succeed, right? That's where I'm at with him, and I guess like a lot of people are clamoring for him to be a healthy scratch, but think about it this way: if you're Justin Hall, your confidence is low. Is getting healthy scratch really going to do you any better? I don't know if it does, right? So I just assume that they're taking the approach of keep him in the lineup. The only way he's going to get that confidence back is through experience, or the other option is trade, right? That's the other option there. So that's a Justin Hall conversation. Looking at the Leafs as a whole right now, if we take away the context of how they've played, Dave, are you cool with our record right now? We're 4-1. That gives us 9 points in 9 games to start the year. How do you feel about just that point total, that record, context of how we've played this side?
Okay, so we have it in our notes here. For those who are unaware, the 4-1 record, is it the exact same from last
It
year?
is. Yep.
So at
To
this
to the
point
day.
last year,
To the day.
wow,
Yep.
that how crazy how life works. So at this point last year, the Leafs had the exact same record. They were coming off a 7-1. Oh my God, 7-1 brutalization at the hands of Evan Rodriguez, first line center
Yeah.
for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And then the next night, I believe it was a back-to-back against the Hurricanes. They lost 4-1. And that would have been Freddie Anderson's return game, if we all remember. Um, Following that Carolina game, though, they seemed to switch something on, which was very like so cathartic to see because then they right after that Carolina game they won 15 of their next 17 games. Now to win 15 of 17 in the modern day NHL is something ridiculous. And it was something that, maybe we should have paid a little bit more attention to given, you know, like we were living
I
in
think
it.
that's where
But
the
like
bar was set. Yeah. Like we just kind of said, okay, Leafs are good. This
that's
is
what you
what they
should be
should do.
doing. This is how we
Yeah.
should be playing, right? And they were playing the style of hockey that Kyle Dubas, that Sheldon Keefe that they wanted them to play. There was,
Yeah.
I remember like just high octane
Puck
offense and
possession,
very good puck possession, and their defense was, and it wasn't just like the
much
defense core.
improved,
It
man.
was
Yeah.
it was team defense all across the board was astounding for those
Led by
17
Austin
games.
on the back check. That was the big
A
thing is
hundred
guys
percent.
getting back on the back check. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so to say, am I happy with this record given the fact that they kind of did this last year? Of course I'm not. But do I have the faith that they'll be able to turn it around? I do. I definitely do. But one thing to keep in mind was all the numbers leading into that, like that unbelievable stretch, was saying that the Leafs, here and there, they were kind of, one game they would get goalie, they'd had like a fair amount of the puck possession. They had better chances, especially 5-on-5, which has been, the absolute
Yeah.
bane of their existence for these first 9 games. Like they can't generate no offense. And that kind of leads to my point was they the numbers were actually like really, really good. They were just, getting a bit unlucky.
The
The
process was
numbers,
good. The results
mhm,
just weren't there for whatever reason. But
exactly.
then they came.
Which
But then they
happens.
came.
Which happens,
Yes.
of course. And of course you're obviously, like I said before, you're not gonna win every single game. To win 15 to 17 was fantastic. Like it was
Incredible.
great. But from what I've noticed and what I've seen now is, those numbers just aren't there for whatever reason. Whether it's a lack of confidence, it's something's just not clicking with all 4 lines, all 3 defense pairings. There's just something lacking right now. They're missing maybe that spark. They showed it against Winnipeg, so I don't know if you have to get them angry. This team's like the Incredible Hulk. Like most days they're Bruce Banner, but once you throw in a Neil Pionk cross check, you know, somebody
My
that can get
favorite
under their
Marvel
skin.
villain, Neil Pionk. Yes.
Neil Pionk. I think he's
But you
up there
play
with
like,
Thanos. Him
yeah,
and
man.
Thanos, they were going for the
Oh
rings
yeah.
together.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, like it's just
I
for
think
a
you're onto
team.
something though, Dave. I think you're onto something there,
100%.
right?
Like I don't know. Like, do you have to get angry all 82 games in order to play all 82 games?
I
Even
wouldn't even
60,
say it's
70
anger.
games would be fine.
Yeah, I don't know if it's anger as much as it's giving them a reason to play. They can't get up for games, right? It's like I'm sure, and I'm sure Keefe is throwing all the reasons at them that they should be ready to play a certain game. But it's almost like, see, I don't want to say this because I don't even think this is true. Where they're not tuning him out, but like Keefe will give them
Ugh.
the reasons that hey guys, this is an important game because of this reason. And if the Leafs fan base was in the Leafs dressing room, me and you were in the dressing room, Dave. We go in there when they're playing the Coyotes and we say, guys, this is an important game because we expect you to lose this game. This is the game that everyone expects you to crap the bed for. And then they did, right? And I just wonder, is Keefe saying that? Is that how you motivate the guys? You have to give them a reason to play, right? And we see when they have a reason to play, when their backs are up against the wall, they at least show up. All of our losses this season, we haven't been quote unquote beat yet. We have not given our best effort and lost the game yet. We lose games because we're not there half the time. Play the damn game and you might win it. All of our wins this year, we've played a majority of the game. It's incredible. It's a shocking revelation. When you play the game, you win. When you don't, you lose. But
Especially with the talent that you have. Like you should
yes,
be realistically
yes,
winning more games than you shouldn't. Like it just like I don't care if you want to say, oh, the Leafs teams. I've heard it. We've heard it all. Oh, they're overhyped. Oh, they're soft. Yes, okay, that's fine. Listen, we take it out of proportion. I'll be the first one to
Yeah.
admit that. The Leafs media, the Leafs fans, we tend to take it out of proportion. But you can't sit here and look at me dead in the face and say that this team shouldn't be winning every, or at least competing for every single game. This team is a 50 plus win team. Like that's not the type of effort that we're looking for here, guys. Like, I don't know how else to say it. We've been saying it for 7 years, it feels like. I remember every single year there's always been a stretch where it's like, oh, looks like the guys kind of gave up on this game, and it's been consistent. One thing that I'll mention, our friend, I wish he was my friend, Steve Dangle, pointed out today on his LFR that, the similarities to the end of Mike Babcock's time in Toronto and this
2019-20.
2019-20 and this little stretch right here are kind of spelling some similarities. So by the end of Mike Babcock's tenure here in 1920, it was almost like carbon copy of what's happening right now. Whether Mike was trying to, get the room going, it just seemed like whatever he was telling them was kind of like going in through one year and out the other. And, they were just going and playing listless hockey. It felt like. Now I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, this is the exact same situation. We're just going to try to, put this into a little bit of context here. Mike Babcock gets fired midway through November, I believe. No, was it November?
It might have been.
Might have been December, actually.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. It was in the early 20s, I believe. For games played, he gets let go. Sheldon Keefe comes in then, and he gets everybody playing for him. That was the big thing. Everybody
instantly, like the next game.
The first game. Yeah, the first game and the next game after that. It was like Tyson Barrie was scoring goals that he couldn't, he wasn't doing
against Arizona.
There was another one too. Somebody broke something. Listen, I don't even want to go back to that season in itself. Was just
that was a bad season, but that specific little point in time, that little bubble in time that Rakifa just came in, it was like everything was dropping right for the Leafs. Everything was dropping right. I think I see where the conversation is going here. And before we get to, we'll talk about Keefe and we'll see a little bit of comparison to, we know the fate of Mike Babcock, obviously, but I'm going to bring a bit of not the counterpoint, but just not the opposition view either. Let me just bring this to you here. Okay. Who's in the World Series right now, Dave? Who's in the World Series right
now? So right now we've got the Philadelphia Phillies, who are in it for the first time in like 15 years.
I don't even know how long.
I know they won in 2009. That's all I know. Or 2008, one of the two. And the Houston Astros, who have been a perennial, they've been almost like the Tampa Bay Lightning of MLB.
Yes,
I would say.
Yeah. So focusing on the Phillies here, they start their season. They're not playing well. They fired their coach. They had Joe Girardi. They brought in Rob Thompson, who is a Canadian. So that's why you get a little bit more coverage here in Canada right now, right? Exactly. First Canadian manager in World Series history. So that's pretty cool.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So yeah. And the Phillies, they start doing a little bit better, but even to end their season, their last 20 games, they lost 13 of them. So they limped into the playoffs. They limped into that wild card series against the St. Louis Cardinals, and yet here they are against all odds in the World Series. I just bring this in as context because just to give you an idea, we all know sports is random as hell. Shit happens that we don't expect. Okay, that's the moral of the story there. And look at the Leafs, man. I could just as easily see this going the wrong way as we're talking right now. Obviously, the reason we're having this conversation, or you could just as easily seeing it appear like last year, where they end up with 54 wins, 115 points, whatever they had, right? And that's what's so frustrating, though, is it's so many of the same bad habits and just predictability of the past couple of years. Going back to where we were at with Keefe. So a lot of people have said, okay, do you fire Keefe? Do you fire Keefe? Because that's just firing the coach is the go-to move when your team is in
literally
textbook stuff.
It was happening to the Canucks. And I was steadfast on no, you definitely shouldn't be firing Bruce Boudreau because
Mm,
for the Canucks, especially, that would have been their third manager in a full calendar year, I believe.
yeah.
Um, so I don't know. I would personally, I wouldn't. And I guess the same thing could be going here with Keefe. I'm still steadfast on no. But yeah, no, 100%. And it's not even just hockey. That's all sports. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
we've watched enough sports to know, like, 3-game losing streak, your coach, your manager, whatever you want to call them, he's on the hot seat. Like, that's what it is. It's a very like chop and change business. And it's a results first business. If you get the results, you have the support of everyone around you. When the results are not coming in, though, wow, you better start writing up your resume real quick, because if everybody, like, who's a fan of the team was the general manager, we'd have new coaches every other month,
Every week.
basically.
Yeah.
Every
Yeah.
week, probably every week. Yeah, that's just how it goes.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, let's look at the context now surrounding Keefe, though, as well. Keefe, his boss is Mr. Kyle Dubas. These guys go way, 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 way back. And I get the idea, like, it's way too early to have a conversation about firing Keefe, because I don't know if Dubas would even necessarily consider that. I don't know what it would take for Dubas to consider that. He has already committed over and over again to his team that he's created, doubling down on the core multiple times, right? His vision, right? Keefe is part of that vision. Keefe is part of that core, if you ask me. He's his hand chosen guy. I think it would take like an 8-game slide for the Leafs to even for Dubas to make that consideration. If push came to shove, I think he could do it, but it would take a lot for him to even consider it.
One thing I'll say to that, though, is I don't even think he'd make the decision. I think that decision would be forced in from
That's a good
above.
point.
I'll be
Yeah.
honest with you. I think that comes from Shanny and the board of directors at
Yeah.
MLSC there. You
Fan
know,
pressure.
another person that has never really been mentioned in the same conversation. So we brought Kyle Dubas, who's the architect of this team. But then you also have Kyle Shanahan. I'm sorry, Kyle Shanahan. Brendan Shanahan. Kyle
They've
Shanahan
morphed
is
into one, eh? No, I'm sure.
yeah,
Brendan
Kyle
Shanahan.
Shanahan. If he's watching from the sidelines of the NFL right now,
Oh yeah, that's right.
listen, I'll take tickets. Whatever. I don't know why he said that. What's it called?
Brendan Shanahan.
Brendan Shanahan, yes, Brendan Shanahan, former longtime Detroit Red Wing, former longtime NHL player.
He's kind of good at
He's
hockey.
kind of an asshole too, but that's a different story. But Kyle Shanahan was he was here before everything. That was the point I was trying to make here. I just lost my train of thought.
Yes. Yeah.
He was here before Dubas was hired, or at least when Dubas was, a low. I think he was here before Dubas was hired, if I'm not mistaken.
Who Shanahan? Yes, no, I'm
Shanahan,
pretty sure he was, and I think
yeah,
the only like player that was here is Riley, right?
yeah, he would have been the only one. Yeah, for sure. Now I don't like listen. I don't like pointing fingers at people, especially mid-season like this. But if we have another continuation of, let's say we hit game 82, where the Leafs are in the playoffs, and they lose again in the first round. I think that's when executive decisions should be made. I don't think decisions like that should be made right now. So for Kyle Dubas, for anybody to say Kyle Dubas is on the hot seat, you're wrong, because they just
You
won't
don't
do
really
that.
get that mid-season. GM firings don't really
Very, very
happen
rarely.
mid-season. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's rare. So you're saying, realistically speaking, when I say that, I mean we don't necessarily expect the Leafs to go on an 8-game slide, but realistically speaking, you don't think a decision is made on Keefe during the season until after the season is when you think that's made.
Yeah, I would have a real tough time seeing Keefe being let go mid-season. I could definitely see it after the season if
Yes.
everything doesn't go to plan. But I think at
Anything
that
is on the
point,
board depending on the context of how we lose, right?
I think at that point it might honestly be wholesale changes in the front
Yes.
office, on the bench, and then on the ice as well. I think
Yes.
this might be for all intents and purposes, this might be the last dance for some of these guys if it doesn't go right this year.
And it goes back to what we're saying though, is finally this is the first season, which is hilarious because we say it every year going into the season, where if this team loses in the first round again, is there a trade? What happens? And every year we say, yeah, I think so. And then the way they lose makes us say, you got to run it back. Oh, they were so close. You got to run it back. This is finally the year where I don't think it matters. The context of losing doesn't matter. Loss is the context. Lose or win. Those are your options. If you lose, doesn't matter if you outshot the other team 51. Okay, now we're exaggerating again. You see, there is a world where this happens again. But realistically speaking, their backs will be against the wall. They have to get to that point first. They have to be able to artificially get that motivation for every game so they at least comfortably get into the playoffs. But it goes back to what we're saying about Winnipeg, right? You got to get that motivation. I'm not convinced we're going to see anything new with this team this year. The Leafs are doubling down on themselves. The players are taking the approach of Kyle Dubas. We are who we are. We win on our talent. We lose on our work ethic. That's the Toronto Maple Leafs right now. And man, they've gotten close with that approach the past 6 years. So damn it, it might just work, which is so frustrating. That going back to Keefe here, I just want to touch on Keefe because I've been bringing up the questions about firing and this stuff. Let me say that I am a fan of Keefe. I think he's an honest but hard coach. And that's my preferred type of coach, similar to like Bruce Cassidy, for example. And we'll get to Vegas later in the episode. But he says, he gives you an honest answer, right? After a win, you can tell he's got a little bit of a pep in his step, right? Like he's got a little bit of mojo. And after a loss, he'll give it to you straight. We saw that with the elite player comments, which have come back into the news again, right? So I don't think he is the problem. But when I bring up him being fired as a possibility, I don't bring it up because I think he's a bad coach. I think he is a good coach, like I just said. But sometimes even good coaches have an expiry date. I trust me, I didn't believe that I even be saying this stuff. I'm usually much more defending, much more of an optimist when it comes to Leafs. But I think eventually it might have to be on the table during the season. Like I said, I think he's a good coach, but the obvious candidate is Trotz. It doesn't even necessarily have to be Trotz. We've just seen, as we talked about with history, history has told us the Leafs respond to a new coach.
All right, so Cristian, we've already talked about the Leafs quite a bit, and their lack of it seems like their lack of focus. And what better way to get all the players' attention back and get the focus, back in the room than a nice trade? So Cristian, who's on the chopping block right now?
Okay, well, we talked about scapegoats, and it's obviously going to be the scapegoats on the block. It would be Justin Hall, it would be Pierre Engvall, and your other option, who honestly I think has played pretty decent, but just because of the numbers, would be Kerfoot. And the reason I bring up trade as an option is just because if this team does get healthy, which might not happen because of Muzzin, we think he might be out for a long, long time. But this team going into the year had to make a trade to get under the cap, and they haven't made it yet. So those are the options there. And we've seen trades refocus this team before too. The Jack Campbell trade, bringing in Kyle Clifford as well, right? That's an example. Mark Giordano last year. That was more of adding a good thing onto an already good thing. But
sorry, you mean the Kyle Clifford trade that also brought Jack Campbell, because that was the big piece to start.
Yes, you're right though. Not even like
that was where all the attention was going, and we needed the goalie, so it was like, why are we making a big deal of career backup Jack Campbell? But you know what, Soupy really did make a name for himself.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely, he got himself the bag, and I think he'll get his play back to where it was in Toronto. He'll get it going in Edmonton eventually. But yeah, I mean, we had the Justin Hall conversation. We can have a Pierre Engvall conversation. He had an egregious turnover last night coming out of our zone. Just he's a pretty good transition player. That's his forte, right? We don't necessarily get the finesse or offense in the offensive zone, but we trust the guy to get the puck from our end to their end at least. And my God, that was a blunder there. So where we're at with Pierre is where I think the front office is at with him. I assume they told him this year, and our assumption is based on quotes from Keefe saying, "Hey Pierre, we need you to be Mikheyev this year." That was the comparison, right? And once again, frustrating stuff because we've seen Engvall at his best, and he looks kind of like a Mikheyev light, right? Another guy that you have to motivate. You got to get him angry. And Keefe does that, feels like once a month, where he throws a dig at Engvall and how he scratches him to get him going. And I don't know, maybe you can only do that so many times. So there's another option. And the Kerfoot one, like I said, it's more of a numbers thing. I honestly do think he's played pretty well this year. We know he played very well last year, career high in points. Like he was a great contributor last year. But I bring up these guys just because they represent places in the lineup where you can inject new life. And sometimes you have to do that just to change the mindset of the team as a whole. We know how much the guys raved about Muzzin when he came in, right? That's a guy who brought Stanley Cup pedigree and the Los Angeles Kings way of thinking. And this is another conversation. Like look at Bunting, for example, where he came from outside of the organization, not necessarily a world-class organization, the Arizona Coyotes. But my point is he wasn't a Maple Leaf. He comes to Toronto. That little bit of different energy that he brought was infectious. And it seems like this year he's kind of become a Toronto Maple Leaf. Like, I don't mean that in a good way. Do you get what I'm saying? No, Dave?
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah,
Listen. Mike, last year, I said it to start the year. There was just something about. I heard when they signed Mike Bunting, I had no, like, I'll be honest with you, I had no idea who he was. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend I know every single player on every single team. Maybe like Cristian, for my money, I think you might know more about players than
I like
like
the
I
nitty
would.
gritty guys. I like
Yeah,
Corbinian
a hundred
Holzer
percent.
and
Yeah, 100%. But like you
yeah,
know it for like all 32 teams, which is unbelievable. Like,
I
so I
try, I
won't sit
try.
here and admit that like I was the biggest Michael Bunting fan, like thing.
And
But
I knew
what
him
I
by name,
heard,
and that's it. That's it.
yeah,
Go on, yeah,
yeah, that might have been about it. But
yeah.
what the first thing I heard, it was on what may have been TSN, was that his comparisons were to
Zach
Brad
Hyman.
Marchand.
Oh, okay, okay.
I heard Brad
Okay,
Marchand just
okay.
because like yeah, he doesn't have the size like Hyman did.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah. And Hyman was never really, he was like the junkyard dog. Like you'd get into the corners like fucking sorry for swearing.
Dog on a bone. No,
Like,
that's the image
like
in
a,
my mind for Zach Hyman too, bro. 100%, bro.
exactly. It was the junkyard dog.
Yeah.
But Brad Marchand, everybody knows he's a rat. He's a little like a little weasel. He'll get in there, he'll give
Hmm.
you an extra little shot here and there.
Yeah.
And it's just something that like that was just missing from the Leafs.
Yeah.
And we saw it. There two playoff series with no, three playoff series with the Bruins, right? Two playoff series with the Bruins. With this core, we're not going to talk any further than that. Leave that in the past. And we saw it with Brad Marchand, and we've seen it throughout Marchand's entire career,
Incredibly
what he's able to
effective,
do.
man.
Incredibly
Yeah.
effective. So when I heard that, I was like, this guy might become my favorite player. And to start the year, didn't start off too hot. He was kind of demoted down to the fourth line, and they let Nick
Yeah.
Ritchie have his skate up there. But every time you'd watch Bunting on the ice on the fourth line, he just like he stuck out. He really gave that fourth line a presence. He really helped to give it a presence. So I thought you give him like the fair shot. Like, no, who else was going to take that number one left wing spot last year that was left by Big Daddy Zachary, Big Money Zachary. Um, so and then like he gets brought up and he starts lighting it up. Like he finished the year
I think it was
third
like
in
60
call
points.
60 points. I think he finished third in Calder voting
You're
as a
right.
rookie, as a
Behind the
26-year-old.
two Red Wings there. Yeah.
Yeah. He had a very, very, very solid season. And the expectation this season was, can he maintain that same type of production? I'm not going to sit here and say like, oh, he's gonna be a perennial 20 plus 25 goal scorer, 60-point guy. I don't know if he's always got that in him, but I think 45, 50 points for a
Yep.
guy that's on almost a league min contract right now, it's a fair want to ask out of him. And yeah, like listen, I'm a very, very big Mike Bunting fan. man, he's struggled out of the gate too. I know he had a goal against Montreal to open the season. Very, very happy. You got the first goal for the Leafs season this year. I was very happy about that. I was like, wow, like, if this guy's scoring before Matthews, before Marner, before JT, before Willie, I was like, oh, maybe this guy's going to be our the next Rocket winner over here. I don't know if that's the case
But you'd
anymore,
admit though,
but
he hasn't looked bunting like after that game.
he
I
really
felt
hasn't. He really
right.
really hasn't.
Yeah,
Even I'll say in the postseason last year, as the
I'll give him a
season was
break there because he
winding
was coming
down,
off of injury. That's why
yes,
I'll give him a
I
break.
100%. So that's completely fine. Maybe he's still dealing with some lingering issues that we don't know about.
Maybe,
Everybody
maybe.
is. Everybody is at this point. Like, listen, nobody. The only I think the big quote is the only time anybody's 100% healthy is opening night, right? Like that's the only time
Yeah,
you're gonna get, and maybe not even everybody's gonna be 100% healthy. If you take anybody opening night, take any player to like go in for like retrospective like or like hypothetical like
just a
surgery, you could
physical.
come
Yeah,
back just a
yeah,
physical. Yeah, they're coming back with like what we would consider like, weeks off of work, stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Um, but
I
man, sorry. Yeah, no, Mike
No, no, no.
is
Yeah, Mike. I bring him up because he embodied what we wanted the Leafs to be more like last year, and it almost feels like being a Leaf has taken some of the Michael Bunting out of him. I don't know. I'm just extrapolating a lot here. Hopefully, he turns out all. He's gonna have. I'm sure he'll end up having a decent season, but. I mean, we can begin to close the Leafs conversation here.
what
Yeah,
else is
I'll
there to
say
say, right?
I'll,
Like,
I'll ask you this. I'll ask you this. Who on the team could you quote unquote absolve of wrongdoing to start the season? Is there
oh, John
anyone who
Tavares,
you say, okay,
a
so
hundred percent.
obviously I think the whole fan base would say this guy has come out lights out. He looks rejuvenated. It looks like he himself has got a little bit more, I wouldn't even say foot speed, just that little bit of acceleration
Mhm.
just when he gets started there. So he's been fantastic. And we should mention injury. He was injured on
Yeah,
opening night, right?
I was just about to say, listen, let's put. When did we, as a fan base, as the league, when did we start disrespecting former first overall pick, former New York Islanders captain, current Leafs captain John
Yeah,
Tavares?
man.
Listen, $11 million is not something you want to like shake a stick at. It's a lot of money. I completely understand. I'm here for it, but you can't sit here and tell me that John Tavares, like, listen, he had a very, very tough season last year, and he'll admit it. He'll definitely admit it. He's a robot, that guy. So he'll say
He
anything.
just thinks hockey
Uh,
thoughts. That's it, man.
just thinks hockey. That's it. He suffered a pretty traumatic injury. Like when he went down against the Habs, man, I was like fearing the worst. I know a
I
lot
can't
of
think
other
of a
people
game where
too.
I felt like that. Like I've never had that
Yeah,
feeling during the Leaf game
I like
where
a
it's just like,
sinking pit of like despair that lasted throughout the rest of the game.
yeah,
That was really tough to watch, and it definitely looked like those injuries were lingering throughout last season. But that doesn't take away the fact that just I believe 2 seasons before he he led the team in goals with 47. He had his career high in points with almost 100. I think it was 97 or 98. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not
I don't
like
remember the actual number honestly. I think it might have been like 80. Maybe it was 89 or something. It
oh,
was
was it
something
eight?
good.
Was it in the high
I don't
80s?
I don't
Either
remember. I
or.
don't remember. Yeah.
He got his career high.
Yes.
So that's just 2 seasons removed, and now we're acting like he's the a bum. Like I don't get it.
Yeah.
Like that's not what he is. Listen, John Tavares has never been the fastest skater on the team. He never was. He's a bit fleet of foot. That's fine, but he does look like he's got an extra pep in his step,
Yeah.
which is great to see. But I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, this guy's like, as much as, his play frustrated me a little bit last year. Him and Will weren't always, on the same page, it looked
Yeah.
like. Even Willie this year, he's played well. I'm not going to fully absolve him for anything. He
He's
was,
got to keep the play up though. Yeah.
yeah, he definitely does. But and he was the original Toronto whipping boy for this current iteration. He still gets some hate in the fan base, but I think his play over the past couple of years might have absolved some of those criticisms. But he
Yeah.
definitely has to keep his play up. But man, like Captain John Tavares, like I don't know, like what else do you want in a captain? Like the guy's a face-off machine.
Yeah.
He'll get into those dirty areas where, guys like Matthews, guys like Marner. I know maybe for like the modern style, it doesn't like it's not an appealing place to be. Like you want to be in the shoot on the shooting lanes, right? But John Tavares, he
He's
kind
there
of
no matter what.
represents, yeah, he represents that like that blue collar nature that's ingrained in the Toronto Maple Leafs fabric. And I don't understand why so many people are coming after his neck. Like I get it, his contract's a
I
little bit
think,
hefty,
yes.
definitely loaded, but
I
let's
think
put
his
some
play
respect
will
on
get the
John's
fan
name.
base. Yes, 100%. This is respect. This is John Tavares' name. Beautiful. Okay.
Respect.
Personally, me too.
Respect.
Even last year, if we consider it a down year, what did he have? Like 79 points. Like the guy was almost point per game. Like
Yeah.
he's a second line
That's
center.
what he's
Let's
always
remember
been.
that. Exactly.
He's always been a
Exactly. So
point game
I didn't
player.
I didn't have problems with the production last year. The process, once again, you could say it wasn't the best. He was getting shelled defensively. That's what the advanced stuff was telling you. And that was coming after the year before, the bubble year, where he was like 10 out of 10 defensively. He
Yeah, he was
was the
lights
checking
out.
line, right?
Mm-hmm.
So JT absolved of his sins to start the year. Anyone
Yeah.
else you want to add? Because I would be able to add one more
Ooh,
name.
I have a feeling. I don't know if you're gonna say Samsonov.
Yes. Yes.
Is that your next pick?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, I could see it. Listen, I mean, at the end of the day, like having like he was only letting in like one goal, two goals a game. Like yesterday was the first game I believe he let in more than two goals a game. Or
Maybe
he
it was the
played
first time more than three. Maybe that's what it
more than
was. But
three. Maybe
he's
that's what
got
it
a
was.
920 save percentage right now in 6 games, 4 wins, 2 losses. Has he had a bad game yet? No, I wouldn't say so. I'd say
I wouldn't
he's
even
given
say
us a
yesterday
chance to
was.
win in every win. I mean, in every game, he's given us a chance to win. So I'm going to absolve Sammy as much, and maybe it's biased because I love his quotes. Yesterday saying, "We got no
I
smile tomorrow." I hope we have
bit of a
smile
firm.
tonight. Yeah, hopefully.
Please.
Um,
Please.
yeah, just for those who don't know, we're recording right before the Anaheim Ducks game, right? So that's at 8 o'clock. We're
Yeah.
recording dinner time
Within
here.
an
So
hour.
exactly, exactly. This will be good though. I'm gonna be emotionally charged for the Leaf game now. Just this talk, we're gonna be noticing so many more things. We're gonna be like, this is like doing like freaking shrooms and watching the Leaf game. We're just gonna be like, we're gonna be open to everything, Dave. We're just
Uh,
gonna notice
we're gonna see.
everything now.
I'm gonna see plays before they happen. I'm gonna see the puck
Yes.
in the back of the net and the plays like still in the Leaf zone. Um,
Okay. Do you have anything else to add Leaf wise or anyone you'd like to absolve? I think I've absolved who I wanted to of their sins so
I,
far.
I think, yeah, I think those
Okay.
are the only two I can off the top of my head. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
everybody else is just
Oh,
like
I got
brutal.
one. I got one. We have to mention
Who?
him. We have to. David Camp. We have to talk about even strength leading
Yeah,
goal scorer David Camp. My God, I've loved this guy since last year. Like once again, same conversation as Michael Bunting. We'll make it quick in terms of. Do you think I knew much about David Camp? No, I knew that
no
he was
idea.
a fourth liner on the Chicago Blackhawks, the not good Chicago Blackhawks. So trust me when I say I was surprised when I think we gave him 1.5 mil. I was like, this guy plays
Yeah,
fourth line on a bottom feeder team. How are you giving him over a mil? My God, he proved me wrong. This guy, that's another heart and soul guy. Like one attribute I love in players that I just want on any team, like let me say it, like if you play in the National Hockey League and you celebrate a certain way after a goal, I want you on the Leafs. David Camp celebrates the way I want guys to celebrate. So does JT. Riley too. When Riley scores, he's pumped. Another
pumped
guy is
up.
Mark Stone. Yeah, like Mark Stone. When
Yeah,
Mark Stone's over, he's like, ah, he just
yeah.
screams around the arena.
It's like the
Guys
last goal
celebrate like
he's ever
that.
going to score.
Exactly, exactly.
That's how
That's an
you. That's
attribute
how
I
it has to
love.
be.
And David Camp, respect David Camp. Say hello. If you want to add anything, by
He
all
gets the
means.
respect.
Yeah.
I think just on that quick talk on the celebration, I think we've been so spoiled to see, perennial 40 plus, 50 plus goal scoring from 60 plus goal scoring from Austin
Yeah.
Matthews that if you remember to his very first game, he gets his first goal, hyped up. Everybody's hyped up. That's your first debut goal. Number two, whoa, like listen, like doesn't
Incredible
happen
stuff.
for many. Incredible. You couldn't even write a story like that, right?
No,
Then the hat trick comes. Oh my God, that's like something out of like the Disney out of Disney. Like that's what they wrote. And then the fourth goal comes, which they ended up losing that game. Let's put that one in the past as well. Too many games to put back in the past. Scores his fourth goal, and he's going around the boards, and he's just like, "Yeah, I've been here 3 times before. Like,
yeah, it's like,
get
can
used to
somebody
it."
else do
Basically,
something now? Yeah.
yeah. Oh, really, really. Uh
Okay.
man.
Well,
Okay,
that was a
let's
great Leafs conversation. I feel a lot better, Dave. I
nice
was
little
coming in. Yeah,
catharsis there. Yeah,
yeah, man. Okay.
100%.
All right. We'll do more Leaf talk next episode as we will every episode. But that was
Yeah,
good to get out of
100%.
my system. Yeah. Okay. Do you want to move on to the Coyotes there? I mean, that was a pretty
I
eventful game there.
I would love to
Yeah,
uh
I'm sure you
to
would.
start off with the upcoming playoff contention Arizona Coyotes because
Oh yeah.
man, so for all of you that don't know, the Yotes had their first game in the Mullett Arena, their new arena on ASU's property. They're sharing it with the ASU hockey team. It's not fully complete yet. So that was like, that's just something to consider as we get into this conversation. It's not going to be fully complete until late November, early December, I heard, could be even later into December. They're trying to get it ready for their next homestand, which is in December. That is the goal right now. And that's because they're playing at a 5,000 seat stadium on the ASU property. And Cristian, some of those pictures and videos that were coming out of, their home locker room. I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I don't know what was worse. The temporary, sorry, I don't know what was worse. The temporary home locker room or the temporary away locker room. So on one hand, you had the home locker room that will look like something out of like a beer league, and then the away
Yeah, man.
locker room is what I would imagine. Like I don't even know, like
It looked like a movie
that.
set. That's what it looked
Yeah,
like. Yeah.
that is a
Yeah.
fantastic like correlation. Like
It's like a
it
studio
literally
with
looked
no
like.
ceiling, right?
Exactly. It looked like they just filmed this scene of Letter. That's what they just filmed Letter Kenny in that area. That's
That'd
what it
be a good
was.
crossover,
Like,
right? They should do that.
I mean, listen, they could probably film at the Mullet Arena. It would look the same as some of those sets. So,
Yeah, I
yikes.
mean, yikes is the word to describe it. On the basis of the dressing rooms there, yeah, that home room, like that literally looks like any arena in the GTA. If you told me I've been in that dressing room, I'd believe you. I really would. The keyword, like Dave mentioned, is temporary. So we'll cut them slight slack there.
A little bit.
That temporary visitor room was hilarious. I don't know how else to put it, and the way that I brought it up was I can't wait for some team to come in there, lose to the Coyotes, and the coach like closes the door. We're having a closed door meeting, and he just yells at the players, and you're just the media standing there, and you hear everything. Obviously, I know this wouldn't happen because they're not stupid, but that's just what I imagine in my head.
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay, we can move from the dressing room to the actual, not the ice surface, but the atmosphere. What did you think about the atmosphere? Game one.
I mean, listen, it looked homey, I guess you could say. Like
That's a good
for
word. Yeah.
5,000. Yeah, you know what? I guess like 5,000 seats definitely gives you like more of like that close, tight knit feel.
Intimate.
Yeah. So I mean, considering that the Yotes were only pulling in like I think less than half of the capacity when they were in Gila River,
Hmm.
um, I would say 5,000 seats they could probably normally always fill. And granted, it was
I
their
would
first
hope
game.
so.
Granted, it was their
Yeah.
first game of the season. That would have been technically their home opener, almost a month into the season. Um, I still thought like it looked pretty good. Like I can't complain. The Yotes fans have been starving for something since like 2012, I would say, right? I think
Yeah.
anything for them right now. Listen, you're in this situation already. I guess now it's like let's make the best of it almost. They I caught just glimpses of that game. That was on Friday. I had to work and then I worked in the morning. Like I worked during the day and then I had to work in the morning. So it was a very like, I didn't even bother.
Didn't
I
schedule well. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wasn't a part of that thing. But I caught glimpses after, and what was the quote? Who was it? It was somebody on the Jets that was like
Dubois.
the ice surf. Yeah, it was Dubois that was like the
It
ice
was
surface
Dubois.
is
Yeah,
like
it was Leah
the best in
Hextall
the
and
league.
Dubois post game. Yeah, I mean, I watched the condensed highlights after that game just because I saw that quote too, and I'm like, okay, let's get a sense of what we're looking at here. And so, from a broadcasting perspective, I think they did a good job. It looked pretty normal. The lighting is a little bit off. It is a bit of a darker tinge on the screen just because it's not as bright in there. But better than I expected, right? Like we went in on the Coyotes our first couple episodes that we talked a lot about this situation. And for my expectations, they did exceed them. So I'm happy for them from an atmosphere perspective, from a broadcasting perspective. It looked good. And like you said about the ice, I was watching the condensed highlights and guys looked like they looked like they were flying. Like it was a high skill game. Shout out to Cole Perfetti. He scored one goal and like in those condensed highlights, like he had like five chances, man. That guy's gonna be a star for the Jets real soon. Honestly, like as soon as this year, right? So that's my only hockey take from that game. The Coyotes ended up losing 3-2 in overtime. It was at least an exciting game. And yeah, atmosphere looked pretty good. So like you said, Dave, they're gonna make the best of their situation. So all of a sudden I feel kind of like happy and optimistic about the Coyotes, man. I never thought I would be here.
So listen, I put that take out before about the Yotes making the playoffs. Do I fully like wholeheartedly stand by that statement? I want to. I definitely do. Listen,
But
but
that's why
let's
we
be
put the
realistic.
10% tag, right? So
Exactly. That would have been
yeah,
8.01%, but it's okay. It's fine. Either or. But I do really want the Yotes to succeed. I don't think anybody in this league wants to see a team or their fans go through struggles like the Yotes have. I said it before. They've just got to make the best of this situation. Try your apps. I don't believe that they have a new deal in place right now because they want to move it. They want to move their stadium to Tempe, I believe.
yeah,
I don't think they have a deal in place just yet, but
they're working on it. Yeah.
they are working on it. I just hope that this is only temporary and that everything is just going to start going up from here. Realistically, if the Yotes end up, bottoming out and they're in lottery contention and they end up winning the lottery and they add somebody like Connor Bedard, next season at the Mullett Arena might legitimately be a hot ticket in the around ASU, man. Imagine going to school and then you get to see a potential generational talent. Like that's what
Dude,
it could
100%.
be,
If
right?
I was at ASU, like I would probably have season tickets. I probably would. But like I'm a hockey fanatic, but I hope the casual students there would say like, "Hey, let's check out the Coyotes." You brought up Bedard there, and I just had like this vision in my mind, and I want to get it out of my head now, Dave. I was just like, "Oh my God, they're gonna win the lottery. They're gonna have Bedard next season, and then they're gonna sign Austin, and it's gonna be such a parallel between us drafting Austin and Tavares coming to Toronto. Like the parallel that I threw in my head there is so vivid that
No, Cristian,
I'm not a
no.
pessimist like that. I'm not a pessimist like that. Trust me. That conversation we can talk about that in the summer. It just popped in my head, and I was like, "Oh my
Oh
God,
my
dear
God.
God!" You see it now, right? Like the Tavares Matthews parallel. Like, what if he even has the same tweet,
Oh,
bro? What if he already has the
oh my
picture
God.
ready, man?
He's just
Okay,
got Coyotes pajamas
yeah,
on.
yeah,
Coyotes
man.
blankets. Oh my God, I
Oh
could see
man.
it. Oh
Okay,
my God.
okay, okay.
Let's hope for everybody's sake that you're not like Raven Simone and you just had a vision into the future there. Because man, oh man, would that be something?
Okay, let's stop
I know.
talking about it. I don't want to talk about it anymore,
Let's
man.
no, if we give it any more life, it's going to actually happen. Let's
Yeah,
not speak that
you're
into
right. You're
existence.
right.
Do you have anything else on? I think that's about it. It's just
I think we caught
like
on the Coyotes, man. Yeah, I mean, we'll
yeah.
keep tabs on it. We'll see if maybe
Hmm.
the home ice becomes an advantage for them, and it'll be interesting. Yeah, to keep tabs. I wonder. I hope they end up with a good road rec. I mean, a home record. That'd be nice to see.
Hmm.
At least we have like a little story there. But we
Yeah,
can go
just something to
from trying to
grasp
make
on.
the yeah. We can go from trying to make the best of one situation to another team trying to make the best of a situation. We can touch on the Senators if you want there.
Hmm. Yeah.
You know what? I think we're going to bring up the Norris injury there. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So I think so for everybody that doesn't know, Josh, and funny enough, the parallels are gonna
the
come
common
thick and
more. Uh
fast here.
oh,
They're
what
gonna
do you
come
got?
thick because so Josh Norris suffered a shoulder injury on Monday night against your Arizona Coyotes. Uh
Damn it, I didn't realize that.
in a big Ottawa win. Yeah, yeah, yeah. See that I remembered that and I was like, what, like crazy parallel right there. And
Yeah,
and Josh Norris and listen, it doesn't look good. I've heard reports that it's going to be 3 to 4 months out. I've also heard reports that it might be for the rest of the season that he's going to be out for, which absolutely sucks because Josh Norris is definitely one of the key contributors on this rebuilding, retooling, no rebuilding Sens team. You know that they're just trying to make steps, take steps forward, right? Ottawa's coming into this season with high expectations. You bring in the Brinkat, you bring in Giroux, you bring in who am I
Jake
missing? I
Sanderson
know
steps in the lineup on defense,
Jake
right? Yeah,
Sanderson's coming up, right? And then
the
you got
move in
your
goal.
yeah, you have Anton Forsberg really stepping up as well. You know,
Yeah,
he's making that big jump. And then you have the rest of your core around, and Josh Norris is a key contributor to that core. Um, and it's very weird because if you remember Cristian, I just remember Colin White last season, I believe, who was originally going to be a part of this Ottawa Senators like core
yeah.
type of
He
thing, and
was.
then
I think he might have been captain of the U.S. Junior team at one point. One of those
I think
tournaments there.
so. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that type of situation, you never want to see something like this happen to
No.
a a very, very, outstanding player. So I think one big story now for the rest of the season is who's going to step up, like who's going to take that role. Like somebody needs to step up in Josh Norris's absence. Cristian, you got some players that you think might be taking that step?
Yeah, I mean, we have obviously your number one center in Ottawa. There is you got Tim Stutzel, Jimmy Stutzel. That's the I don't know where the Jimmy name even came from, but I like it. I find myself calling him Jim sometimes too. But Tim Stutzel is your bona fide 1C. I got no qualms with that. But yeah, you got to find your 2C. And I think their temporary 2C right now is Derek Brassard. I mean, do we really think that's sustainable? Like I know once upon a time in Ottawa, Derek Brassard was a 2C, and he was pretty damn good back then. I was a big fan. Went to the Rangers, did some stuff there, but that is not the Derek Brassard of today. He might be having a little bit of a resurgence right now, but wouldn't be holding my breath. And I don't necessarily know if Sens fans are either. So that leaves you with two more realistic options. Your veteran option, Claude Giroux. He does usually play the wing, but we know he's capable of playing center. He's done it many times in Philly. Or your other option is the rookie, or at least the young guy, Shane Pinto, who's got, I believe, 6 or 7 goals now. Like the guy has been on fire. I've been meaning to watch the highlights of all his goals. Like I did that last episode for Darlene. Like all of Darlene's goals, Dave, like just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful,
Chef's
beautiful.
kiss.
I need to watch Pintos at some point too to see if he's got the same thing going on. But I think he might be the 2C. Honestly, the way he's playing, thrust him into the 2C, see what you got there. I think that's the way they're going to have to go. And just the concern with the Norris injury too is that it's a repeat injury. It's the same shoulder, and I think this is like his third time injuring it. So that's where the big concern is. You just signed a guy to a huge extension. I think it was 8 by 8 or something to that effect, right? So
Yeah.
this is a guy who is
Mhm.
creeping close towards 40 goals last year in Josh Norris. So yeah, honestly, like I want to see the Sens do decent. I want to have that rivalry again with them. Like at least where both teams are good. Not that we're playing down to the Sens or vice versa. So yeah, I hope Norris does end up coming back this season, and maybe he's back in time for a playoff run or something, right? So that's I did want to touch on that because yeah, that's a huge loss for Sens. And what do you think, Dave? Do you think they'll be able to insulate themselves from injury and still be able to succeed this year, or where are you at on the Sens?
Okay, so I have like kind of 2 points.
Hmm.
Well,
Yep.
okay, so I think the Sens are in a good enough position where they can sort of insulate. So
Yeah.
as you mentioned, you've got Pinto, you've got Giroux, you've got Broussard that are all capable of potentially making that jump up. The good thing about this is you have a young guy in Pinto, let's say, he starts off well and then he starts to tail off a little bit. That's fine because you have somebody like, especially Claude Giroux, a
Yes.
veteran presence. He's been here before. Like, this guy's a true veteran of the league. To have somebody like that who can then step in, and win the draws and stuff. Like I remember Claude Giroux's like a few seasons removed now from being one of the best face-off.
100%.
He's like a
Yeah.
face-off like leader. I know for
Oh
a
yeah.
few years there, he was, if he wasn't first, he was definitely like top five at least. Um, so you have that plus his leadership as well, being in Philly all those years. I think the Sens are, as much as, listen, you want Norris on the team, obviously, like that. There's no doubt about it, but it's not the worst position to be in right now. If you didn't bring in somebody like Giroux and it's only Pinto and Broussard, or it's only Pinto instead of
Yeah.
having even Broussard too, like he like no slouch. Like the guy's been around the league as
He can
well,
probably
as you
step
mentioned
in there
before.
like temporarily if he has to, like a
A
week
hundred
here or a week
percent.
there, right? I think it's what you're
Yeah.
saying. I think you've convinced me, Dave. Honestly, it doesn't even have to be one guy who steps in at the 2C role. It could be multiple guys. It could be a
Just
rotation.
platoon them.
Yeah, it could be like you even said there, where Giroux takes faceoffs, but maybe Pinto plays the center position during play, right? So Giroux takes the
Maybe.
faceoff duties off his hands. Yeah, man. You know what? You're making me even more confident in the fact that yeah, they'll be able to insulate themselves. Okay.
100%. All right, Christian. So as we sort of start to wrap things up for this week, let's kind of have a look around the league. So I guess we'll start at the top, and then we'll kind of look at some other things that are, something that caught our eyes with some of the other teams. So to start, we have the Vegas Golden Knights and the Boston Bruins, top of either division. What kind of stands out to you, and like what kind of jumps out at you from both of those two teams?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of roasted the Bruins in our first episode there, saying I was in pretty good agreement with Brian. I think I actually even had the same take. Where like, yeah, the Bruins are going to miss the playoffs. It'll be the Sens or Wingers or the Red Wings who take that spot. Yeah, I take the young legs over those Bruins. They're too old. My God, they're just like destroying me right now. Yeah, they're 8-1-0. They look pretty fantastic. Their top guys are their top guys, even with McAvoy still out. Marchand obviously is back in town. He had a 3-point night in his first game back, like typical Brad Marchand stuff. Yeah, it's hard to fault them. They look deep. They are playing well under their new coach Jim Montgomery, who when he was in Dallas, he had a pretty good record from what I remember. So, and the biggest thing for me that gives me confidence, I don't want to say confidence because I trust me, I don't want to have confidence about the Bruins, but what makes me think that this sustainable for the Bruins and that they'll be near the top of the Eastern Conference standings is their goaltending. They've got Olmark and Swayman, and I don't think Swayman's been off to the hottest start, but his track record from last year shows that he is dependable, especially in that tandem role that we saw last year. And Allmark has been picking up the slack to start this year. He's one of the top goalies right now. So that right there is the biggest thing, and that's the biggest separator between the Bruins and the Golden Knights for me. For why I think the Bruins are a bit more sustainable in their success than the Golden Knights. You've got Logan Thompson, but outside of that, I think it's Aiden Hill. I don't think he's been bad, but I'm taking Olmark and Swayman over Thompson and Aiden Hill all day. But I mean, here's another parallel here. Bruins moving over to Vegas. Who's Vegas's coach? Former Bruins coach, Bruce Cassidy. And I mentioned
True.
I'm a big fan of Bruce Cassidy. That guy whooped our ass 2 years in a row. So
No, he served it.
yeah, he served it against Babcock there. It was a game of adjustments, and only one coach was making adjustments, and it wasn't ours. So I'm a fan of Bruce Cassidy. I think you could have a whole podcast on just the weird decision of firing him from the Bruins in the first place, right? Especially how it went down. That always I'll always remember that, how they just showed up at his house and say, "Hey, Bruce, we're coming by. Yeah, how's it going? How are the kids? Okay. Oh yeah, by the way, you're fired." Anyways, another conversation. But
Didn't he think it was going to be like a contract extension?
I,
Was
I
that?
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe. I mean, that would make sense because I'm sure
Yeah.
those happen at the same time, right? You have to make a decision one way or another. So it might have been. I can just imagine. He's like, "Yeah, come on in, sit down in the living room. What can I get you to drink?" "Oh no, I'm good, Bruce. I'm good." And it's just, "Oh, I'm just going to the washroom real quick." Comes back and he's fired in his own damn house. Where do you go? Where do you go? You've just been fired. What do? You break your own lampshade? No, I don't know. I could talk about this all day, but Bruce, good coach. That's the moral of the story here. Vegas Golden Knights. We saw them up close and personal against the Leafs. They played us hard. They played Vegas Golden Knights style, and Jack Eichel was real good against us. Love me some Mark Stone, as I mentioned. That's another team there. I'll say it's pretty sustainable on their end too. Dave, what do you think about these two good teams? Are they actually good?
Okay, so I don't know if I said it that episode when you guys were talking all that shit about Boston, but I've seen it, and it's not just the Bruins. For the
Yeah,
state of Massachusetts has this like resurrecting power. It's unbelievable. We've seen
absolutely.
it. We saw it with the Patriots for 20 years. We saw it with the Red Sox. This year wasn't that
Celtics are
great.
always there.
But the Celtics, oh my God, I forgot about the Celtics too. They made it to the finals this past year in the NBA. They just like seem to like every time that they look to be out of it, they just they come
They
back even stronger.
And I think
It's
they feed off of
unbelievable.
that.
I
I
think so
should just
too.
shut up about the Bruins, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
Let's
right.
just stop talking about Boston in general. It'll just make everybody's lives so much easier. And I know we can't because the Boston like fans are louder than everybody else. So you're not it's them and like Philly. Like you're not gonna
Oh
like
yeah,
you're gonna hear them, right? They're everywhere too. Uh, but what I will say is, having that tandem, like you said before, in Swayman and Allmark, those are two guys that are definitely starters on most teams in the league. I would definitely say at least 20 to 25
this
teams
is the
they're
question I ask myself. Like,
starters.
imagine it doesn't matter what team you are, you're going into a playoff series. Your goalie is either Omar or Swayman. Like, if you put either one of those goalies in your net, do you feel that you have a chance to win the series? Yeah, you don't feel that they would lose you a series. They keep you in it, right? So that's my bar, right?
Hmm. Yeah, no, 100%. I do think both of them, they keep them in games, and they in the future they're gonna end up keeping them in series. The one question I'll have to say, so the big thing with the Bruins this year was, is this going to be the last year for guys like Patrice Bergeron?
Krejci made the
They
comeback.
brought Krejci back, which I'm honestly amazed to see he's
Me
still.
too.
I think he's honestly playing better than he was like the last few seasons, and like the last few seasons that he was in the NHL.
Yeah,
He's,
yeah.
I think he's exceeding all expectations of what they brought him in to do. And then the the core outside, like the core that they're trying to bring up, are they as strong as some other teams? There's definitely some questions to be had there. What are they going to end up doing with David Pastrnak this year, who needs a new contract? And
Huge question.
he's looking to make a lot more money than he took on his sweetheart of a deal for this current contract. There's definitely some questions down the line for the Boston Bruins, but if you're a Bruins fan this year, soak it up because I really think that the Bruins are gonna take a page out of the Michael Jordan Chicago Bulls and make this run count. As much as I hate to see it, I see the Bruins logo, I hear their stupid goal horn it haunts my nightmares. This might actually genuinely be the last ride for a lot of for a good portion of this core, which you know what, everybody gets older, things have to change, but it's going to be weird to see in the future a team, a Boston Bruins team without somebody like Patrice Bergeron, without David Krejci, maybe potentially in the near future Brad Marchand, and maybe who knows where David Pastrnak ends. But like I said, Bruins fans, enjoy it while it lasts, because it's looking like it's going to shape up to be a really, really fun season for you guys. As much as, you deal with that, all the extremities in the future, just enjoy, live in the moment right now.
Man, Dave, I'm having another vision, bro. I gotta hit you with the
Oh
vision
my
real
God,
quick, man.
Raven Simone over here.
It's always Leaf related, obviously. But I mean,
Yeah.
what are we talking about the Leafs this year? This is a little bit of a last dance too. Could you imagine that we do it one more time, Bruins and Leafs?
Round
Everything's
3.
on the line. Bergeron's career's on the line. Like Krejci's career's on the line. The last dance for both teams. Only one can survive.
This
Give it to
that
me.
would
Give it to
that
me.
would legitimately be. I don't know if you
Storybook
were
stuff, man.
if you're a WWE fan by any chance. Like, did you watch WWE growing
Back
up?
in the day, I was. Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that type of storyline is like, that is fit for a WrestleMania.
Yeah.
That's like
Right.
grandest stage of them
Oh
all.
my
I could
God.
see like you got the posters hanging up everywhere. It's the last dance for, I don't know how you want to title it, but it's era versus era, like end of an era type of thing. And it's, of course, it's going to have to be the Leafs. Listen, it's happening. We're speaking this one into existence
Yes. Give me
now.
this one, man. Give me
I
this one.
I think between the two, I'd rather have this one, because like it
Yes. 100%.
doesn't spell Austin Matthews going to the desert.
Yeah.
Um, Listen, the Leafs have to win one of these. Right now, it's 2-0 on Boston. 3-0 on Boston. Sorry,
In our lifetime.
in our
Yeah.
lifetime, it's 3-0 on Boston.
Yeah.
It's 2-0 for what counts though.
The Matthews era.
The Matthews era. Yes, exactly. No Kessel talk right now. That's after. So it's
We should do
2-0.
a retrospective one day on like where we were in our life, like
Oh,
recount exact. We'll do that one day.
that's
We
gonna
got
be
to
a
be in a
therapy
safe
session.
place for that.
Yeah, we need to book out a therapy room for that one.
Yeah, yeah.
We'd have
We'll
Brian
do
as
it
the
one day.
doctor. Oh my God.
We're gonna do that one time, though. Yeah.
100%. I think that's gonna be considering our takes on this subject, I think
It'll
that'd
be
be a
good.
really interesting watch.
Yeah.
I forgot what I was gonna say now.
Well, did you want to touch anything on Vegas there or
I mean, listen, Vegas. Last year, I don't know if we want to call it an aberration.
I
They
would
missed the
honestly.
playoffs.
Yeah.
You know what, man? It's looking like it might be. Listen, I'm not fully convinced on Logan Thompson or Aiden Hill in goaltending. That's definitely my big question and my cause for concern for them. They definitely should look to improve on that front by the trade deadline. I don't know from where. I'm not too sure from who that's going to eventually come to us. But I think, in my personal opinion, um, I don't know if you could run all 82 plus a deep playoff run with Logan Thompson as your starter. Maybe you want to platoon him with somebody like somebody else who can come in and step up when
Maybe a
needs be.
rhymer, man. A rhymer might be a good look
It
for
could
him. I
be.
mean,
It could.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good shout. I mean, as much as I'd like to see him back
That's
back
true.
in on Toronto soil, but listen, yeah, that could be a very, very good show for them. But apart from that, you touched on it before. You've got Mark Stone, you've got Jack Eichel, you've got Phil Kessel, who might come back and score another 20-goal season again. Like, he had a pretty
I'm all for
poor
it.
year. I'm all for
Yeah.
it too. Iron Man Phil Kessel. Yeah, no, the Golden Knights play a intense, fast-paced style of hockey, and we saw it up close and personal with the Leafs, and the Leafs just couldn't handle it for the most part.
No. No.
That is kind of like their method to success. And that's kind of the biggest way, right? That's kind of always been what's stood them apart in that Western Conference, in that Pacific division, at least. You
Dare
know,
I say it's very Bruins like. I gotta stop with these parallels, man. But yeah, they're kind of Bruins
yeah,
West.
it's I listen, man. The parallels are there for a reason.
It's
Um,
true.
I
Even
I
before Bruce
think
Cassidy, I'm saying. But yeah,
yeah, no, 100%. I think adding Bruce Cassidy now might have been like a blessing in
the
disguise for
cherry
them.
on
You,
top. Yeah.
yeah, 100%.
All right. Well, there's the top of the NHL. We can
Mhm.
take the elevator now to the basement.
Or the well, I wouldn't even call it the basement.
You're
Let's
right. You're right.
what supposedly was supposed to be the basement. So right now we have let me just pull up the list. So I have six teams. It's actually split evenly, 3-3 from each conference. So the six
Good.
teams are Philly, Buffalo, Jersey, Chicago, Winnipeg, Seattle. Now,
Okay.
Cristian, what do you think those six teams have in common?
They play in the National Hockey League. I want at least
Oh,
heart marks for that, bro. Okay, no, I'm
okay.
joking.
All right.
But please tell me, enlighten me, man. What do they have in common?
All right. So as of this recording, that's before the Sunday night slate of games. All six of those teams are in a playoff spot,
Oh, wow.
and
Yeah.
they weren't. All six of them weren't in playoff spots last year. So that basically means that
Okay.
six playoff teams right now are not in a playoff, or six playoff teams from last season are not in playoff spots right now.
Okay.
Um, So I think we could start like let's not take our like too long here. I don't want to read too much into it, but I think it's interesting to bring up. Like these are supposedly bad teams,
Yeah.
especially teams like Philly, like Chicago, who both of
That's the
them.
big surprise. Yeah.
That's a real big surprise too. Everybody was saying that Chicago was going to be a front runner for the Connor Bedard sweepstakes, and here they are. Yeah, I remember that. And here they are. I believe they're third in the Central right now. Um,
Damn.
yeah. Philly was leading the league at one point. They were one of the last undefeated teams. Um, Buffalo, I'll give a pass to Buffalo. Shout out Rasmus Dahlin. Shout out Tage Thompson. Hopefully, eventually going
You
to be
just
friends of the
gotta.
show.
Yeah, he's
Eventually,
gotta catch fire. But yeah, could you
yeah,
imagine we have Tage and Rasmus on and be like, "Hey guys, just so you know,
we
we
believe
had
in
like,
you.
yeah, we were always there, man. Yeah,
Day one, day one,
day
Leaf
ones,
fans.
guys. Yeah,
Yeah. So I think for all six of those teams, like it's just something it's worth mentioning
yes.
and something to keep our eyes on, going forward. Um, do any of those six teams like really, really stand out to you? I guess maybe besides the Hawks, because I think that's a given, basically.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Run me down. Tell me if I'm forgetting anybody here. So we got Philly, Chicago, Buffalo, New Jersey, Seattle. Who's number six?
Winnipeg.
Winnipeg. Okay. I was hard on Winnipeg in episode one as well. There was one of my storylines that I think they're on the verge of collapse. I'm gonna stick to my guns there. I know they got Rick Bonus and they might have a bit of rejuvenation there. I don't see it. I don't see it with Winnipeg. So I'm gonna fade them as not legit, even though they are 5-3. No, yeah. I'm gonna say fade Winnipeg. Blackhawks, I have to fade the Blackhawks. I mean, I can't convince myself. Philly, man, that's a tough one. Um, I mean, I want to try and get down to one team here. I want to get down to one team who I think is legit. Philly, I'm gonna have to fade because the other three are my top three. I've been impressed with Seattle. I think they're like 4-4-2. It's nothing crazy, but I think they do have a sneakily deep roster. Um, the Bjorkstrand edition was the big one, um, but I'll probably fade them too. So now I'm at Buffalo and New Jersey. I I'll go New Jersey. I'll go. I have to stick to my guns again. I said New Jersey this year could be last year's Vancouver. It turns out this year's Vancouver is last year's Vancouver as well. It's the same team, but the numbers on Vancouver are nuts, like nuts. The underlying stats, they just killed Columbus today, 7-1. You have a guy who could be in that MVP conversation one day in Jack Hughes, and you just have a glut of talent, man, especially in that forward core. And you've made some trades over the offseason. The big one is the John Marino trade. That's bearing some early fruits here. He's been pretty good for them. He scored today
He
as
scored
well.
today. Yeah, yeah.
Yep, yep. So things are turning up in New Jersey after they definitely weren't to start the season. So I'm going to highlight New Jersey, and I'm going to double down on my take that this is finally the year they do good things, and that might be a playoff spot. You got a
Hmm.
team in mind, Dave? Anybody really stick out to you there? I feel like I
Listen,
know where you're gonna go. I
yeah,
don't know.
I
Yeah.
think you do know where I'm gonna go. And the one thing I'll say, it also actually might come back to haunt this take is
Hmm.
I'm still not fully convinced on Jersey's goaltending. I know
Yeah.
they added Vanacek. It's Vanacek and Blackwood now, I believe.
With
Yeah.
Bernier on IR still. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So listen, I've never like I haven't really always like I've never not necessarily been the biggest Mackenzie Blackwood fan. I think he's serviceable. I don't think you know, he's definitely not going to be the backbone for that team.
Hmm.
Is Vanacek going to be that backbone for the team? I think maybe it's just yet to be proven. If he has a good season, then 100%. Um, but then so the team that I'm gonna go with, so I actually fully agreed with all the other takes except for the one that that you're gonna fade. And you had Buffalo in that top two. I also have Jersey in my, in those in that like top two. If we're gonna fade teams here, they're the
Yeah.
last team to be faded, basically. Um, but for me, it's gonna be tough for Buffalo, but I still have my faith that that forward core looks to be clicking again as they were to end last season. And that defense, I said it before, Rasmus Dahlin needs to add that defensive aspects to the game. And I think so far he's done a pretty good job at
I think he's
starting
done
to.
everything, man. Yeah.
I think,
He's
yeah,
just done it
yeah.
all, bro.
Listen, I wanted to be a little bit more humble. He's been
It's
absolutely
your take, so you have
phenomenal.
to be humble. Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
do the gloating for you. He's been fantastic. I think if we're
he's
being
been
honest, he's the
phenomenal.
Norris winner today if we had to vote, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
Um,
How
Now,
do you feel about the Buffalo goaltending?
okay, so
Yeah.
that's my point. So that was the one thing I was going to say that I know it's going to come bite me in my ass because I said that stuff about Jersey, who with Vanacek and net they actually might have an upside. With um Buffalo, however, running Craig Anderson at 41 years old, might be really good right now, but come
He's
another
good if he's
month.
playing for you. Yeah.
Yeah, come another month, who knows what's going to happen. The guy's 41 years old. Like we're seeing it with Tom Brady this year, guys. Like Tom Brady's 45 years old. He doesn't look like he did when he was 25, and neither does Craig Anderson, right?
Let me
You know,
rephrase. So David just said, here's Tom Brady, here's Craig Anderson. They're the same person. Okay, that's his take here. Okay, Hall of Fame, all
exact
the everything. That's
exact
that's
same
his.
person.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Just making sure.
Exact same person. Yeah. Let me know that if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure I'm right, but let me know if
Mm,
I'm wrong in the comments
mm.
below. Yeah. So the one thing I will say about Buffalo is there another. I would say maybe half the league is looking to add a goaltender right now.
Maybe Reimer and
Buffalo.
Buffalo. That'd be. I would hate that, but
I would genuinely dislike that.
yep.
Let him
Damn.
go to what do we say? Oh, we're gonna send him to Vegas.
Vegas.
Yeah, send him to Vegas. I
Okay.
don't want to see him in the Eastern Conference. Just keep him in the
Okay.
West. Um, dude,
Yeah.
I just had a flashback too. I
Okay.
know
Here we go.
if Reimer ends up getting traded to someone in the East, somebody like a Buffalo, he's coming and pitching a shutout against us that first game, 100%.
And it'll be it, I will be slightly grinning under my tears. I'll
Under
be
my tears,
crying and
yeah.
smiling at the same time, right? Man, yeah.
100%.
Okay. I mean, if all these visions come true, it's going to be a very eventful year in the NHL. Before we wrap
So,
up here, I just kind of thought about this. Like we're talking about the goaltending with Jersey and Buffalo. These six teams, let's just go through all the goaltending for these six teams because I think that might be the question mark with all of them, honestly, right? Philly, I think, might have the best goaltending because I think I do believe in Carter Hart. Like
Kind of hat.
he got a hat. I'm usually wearing I have three Carhartt sweaters, and whenever I
Do you?
wear it, I feel like it's Kata hat. That's how I
Kind
use
of
it too.
hat.
It's my Kata hat sweatshirt. So yeah, I believe in Carter Hart, just because he's got the pedigree, right? And he's done it one season before. He's a very highly touted prospect, all that good stuff. So Philly will say, okay, decent goaltending. Kraken, absolutely not decent goaltending.
Mm-mm.
I think we're in agreement on that.
Mm-hmm.
Sabres, we said, questionable. Jersey, questionable. Chicago, very questionable.
Very,
Like,
very questionable.
it's not even a question. And I'm already forgetting our last name. Winnipeg. Okay, Winnipeg's got goaltending as well. Okay.
Mhm.
So two of the four
Five out of
teams do have goaltending.
I would personally, this is what I'm going to say. I know a lot of people are, I don't want this to come off the wrong way. I like Carter Hart. I do. I definitely
Yeah,
do. But he's had a rough
you're right.
past couple seasons.
No, yeah.
He,
It's been
he
really
has
high
not
or
been,
really low.
mhm. And for the most part, those highs have been coming few and far between, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's like, that's kind of like the side effects of bringing up somebody that young, maybe a little bit too early. I think that question could be posed maybe in the future, 100%. So I'm not going to sit here and say Carter Hart's the real deal, the proven thing, because I don't know if he really necessarily is that yet. I think he definitely has the potential to be doing that. But
Yeah,
from that list of six teams, I think the only one with proven NHL and not even like it's like Hellebuck and then everybody else. Like
you're right.
there's such a sizable gap. Maybe you want to throw Carter Hart in between the two of them, but then I in my
Yeah, I
mind
mean,
the other
it's like
guys
we
are like,
said. Yeah, no, they're down there. It's like we
yeah,
said. I like the bar for goaltending for me is would you lose me a series or would you keep me in it? And I think Carter Hart, like you said, it might be like a 50-50 split. Like one day I might say yes, the other day I might say no. Hellebuck, it's an obvious yes. So yeah,
100%.
yeah, okay,
So it's crazy to think of like, and Winnipeg's not one of the teams that we mentioned, right? Like
yeah,
I
yeah.
still
You're right.
definitely think that they got some problems in that dressing room that's only going to be sorted out with a couple of big moves.
Yeah,
The personnel I don't think is fully there. We shut out Cole Perfetti, who's having an electric start to the
dirty man.
season.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, 100%. Um, yeah, I'm not fully convinced on a team like Winnipeg, but you get a Vesna caliber season again from Connor Hellebuck, and he makes that season very interesting. I don't know if it's going to happen. Winnipeg teams in the past and currently have kind of left their goalies out to dry, and that's unfortunate to them. But I still don't think that they're going to make the playoffs. That's the point that I'm going to come to here is I don't think that they're going to make the playoffs. But of all the other teams that are in this conversation as well, I think Winnipeg's definitely like head and shoulders above leading in the goaltending department. So, it's going to be interesting to see going forward, and definitely something to keep an eye on over the coming weeks to see like where any of these teams they could realistically by next week, all six of them could kind of looking like they're out of it. And I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see one or two of them start to tail off a little bit. But of the six teams there's a chance that we see one of them maybe push through and start changing up some of the regular, like the playoffness. I don't even know how you want to like what do you want
just
to
the
call
playoff
that.
regulars. Yeah,
Yeah, they
yeah.
might change it up for the future, basically, right?
Hope so.
Yeah. So, Cristian, you got anything you wanna say to the crowd before we sign off today?
I hope you guys enjoyed. Whoever watched, thank you so much. And by all means, leave comments below about anything about Dave's takes, my takes, our various visions that we've had, any of that good stuff. By all means, please let us know. And yeah, check us out on our website. Check out our phone app that we've got. Check out Dave as always on TikTok, our BD Sports TikTok account. Always good stuff there. And yeah, I'm feeling good after this episode, Dave. I'm ready to watch some hockey now. What do you got to say?
I'm in the same boat. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to watch all of the Leaf game tonight, but definitely like we're gonna get the highlights going. You definitely wrapped up the that pretty well for me there. So again, I'll mention, we've got all of our affiliate links in the description of this video whenever you watch it. And don't forget, actually, the NHL Reverse Retros are going to be out November 15th. If you would like to buy one and purchase one, the NHL Shop.com is going to have it. Go to our links in the bio, in our bio, and purchase whatever team's jersey you want to get. So I think on that note, Cristian, that's going to be the end of episode 5. I don't know where else we're going to take this. Please come back next week. Hopefully next week Brian's going to be all good and he's going to return, back to the podcast and thing. Let's have a great week, everybody. Let's just, let's all have a little bit more smile. I think we could take that from Ilya Samsonov. Everybody have a little bit more smile this week.
Have some smile on Halloween tomorrow, guys. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. All right, guys. Nice to see you.
Take it easy, everybody.